Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 7th, 2023 at approximately 4:28 p.m. PST. I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for just about everybody. Now, the reason I bill myself as a spiritual guide is because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally put to use. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones that I personally live by. So when I'm talking about the things that can work, understand I've been at this since I was 10 years old, to the tune of somewhere just in excess of 100,000 clients over my lifetime. This is where I'm getting my test subject and my test stats from. That being said, shall we get on with it? And right off the bat, we have Cliff in with the gold. I must say, Cliff, you beat me through the door today. Whoop, ouch. Chad, you've got the silver. How we doing? Glad you could join us. I'd love to say I've got something special planned for today, but the reality is, well, it's me. And look at that. And we seem to have something going. I'll tell you, last night on the show, it was really, really backwards. But right at the beginning of the show with Dave on Spaced Out Radio, we ran into a problem. My computer collapsed right within the first half hour. However, for the first time in who knows how long, it came back online within about 5 minutes. Oh, my apologies. Thank you so much. I've been moving things around. So let's get that back where it belongs as soon as I get my leg untangled here. Thank you so much for that. Whoop, we're going to sit down. How's that? Yep, balance is working. And we pop that back over there. I don't turn it on because you still can't see it if I do turn it on. But there we go. And who do we got here? Lacey, how you doing? And you're in with the bronze. Glad you could join us. The way I figure it, we are now on the 7th. Now, when we're looking at what I call universal numerology, which is base 12, 7 is the number of self-awareness. And what better way to start than taking a look at how to literally take the first step of the rest of your life. Now, this is what I've been up to today is getting things set up for just that purpose. Okay. And, thank you so much. Yeah, that one, in all fairness, my ex-wife actually gave that to me for Christmas. It does light up, but the second you turn it on, you can't see anything. So I just leave it that way. Because for the time being, it works quite nicely. But when I'm talking about taking the first steps of the rest of your life, understand when we're talking business, okay, which we are going to cover today, but understand many of you, your business is making your home run properly. Okay. So I made some really, really, heavens yeah. I've made some really definitive decisions as to what I am doing with my company at this point. With Inner Voice Enterprises and with my private life. Okay, for those of you that are wondering, I might just well get this one sorted around. Many people are asking if I'm going to Las Vegas in May. The answer to that is I've got my call into the travel agent to try and get things set up. So I will let you know as soon as I know. I only just sent it off before I got here and before I opened this up. Okay, what do we got there? So am I planning on going? Yeah, it will be my one holiday that I'm going to take until I've actually got a stable cash flow. But that being said, what I have decided, is with every business, and like I said, The running of your home is a business. Okay, it really is. You've got to do the same things at home as you do in business, or vice versa. You've got to keep your rent or your rent, your mortgage, your lease. It's got to be paid. You've got to keep your utilities paid. Excellent there, Lacey. And curiosity, how do you find the energy in your place now that you've got the clutter out of the way? Because I know from my end, when I started moving the clutter, it made things so much easier to work with. What do I got here? I do have my little pad. Yeah, got a cutting board because frankly, I don't feel like going and getting a clipboard. I figure this works. That is fantastic. Now, since I'm looking at this very simple, and like I've mentioned before, it's easier for me to work when I've got interaction in the chat room, which is why I have a tendency of keeping a look at an eye on it. Now, yes, I've got the chat room in front of me here, but I've got another monitor over beside me that's easier to see. What I found is when you look at clutter, it's kind of like because you picture energy like water. Okay. And what happens? Who do we got here? Whoop. Saint, welcome aboard. And you're in with honorable mention here. Do not get me wrong, people. Every single person that comes in here is a welcome addition. And I really have found that for me, the people that show up here and the support I get from you guys is absolutely remarkable. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, Lacey. Requiring help to get things moved around or to see how to move them around a little more effectively is something that we do. You don't have to be good at everything. Okay. The trick to being successful is to know, number one, what you are capable of doing, and number two, being willing to accept assistance and to ask for assistance from other people if you don't know how to make it happen. There are a couple options you can work with there, Lacey. Just a thought. Okay. There are I know people that do medical transcription online. There are people that just do straight transcription online, depending on what you're looking for. Now, for me, I found a way that I'm going to be focusing, and I will get to that. But first and foremost, Lacey, and this applies literally to every one of you that is looking to change the way your life is running. Take a sheet of paper. I'm a very firm believer in this, which reminds me. You take a sheet of paper and you literally write on it. In your case, Lacey, you're looking at working from home. Literally write down on a sheet of paper, I work from home now. Okay, what that does is it draws the energy out of the spiritual realm into the physical world where you can make it manifest. Makes it so much easier to happen. And I know it sounds like way too simple. People talk about positive thinking. Positive thinking is a great idea, but if there's no action behind it, it won't matter. Okay. It's like when you turn to many religions and they'll tell you thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. If that were the case, nobody would be alive on this planet today, because I cannot tell you how many stories have been written about the world population being wiped out. It really boils down to how you desire your life to work. Okay. One thing I found out a long time ago is pick a direction. Okay. Whoa, what do we got? I personally don't like the idea of the flu, so I haven't even had one in 25 years. So I just skipped the flu and went straight to double pneumonia about 3 months ago. Not a wise choice. It really wasn't. You know, but you take a look at what you're aiming for. Now, I would look at it and went, okay, I've had a business. I've had Inner Enterprises now since August 11th of 2007. Okay, at approximately 5 minutes to noon. Okay, because I was working for somebody else at the same time, I had no reason to push it. I had no reason to build it. I had a backdrop. So I admit it, I was lazy. Frankly, I knew better, so therefore I was also stupid. Now I've looked at it and gone, okay, I have this business. It's got to become my primary source of income. Okay, and as I've told you, find 3 sources of income. Whether you work at home, whether you've got a job, it doesn't matter. The reason for finding 3 is if all 3 of them generate 1/2 of what you require to run your house, okay, then you will be sitting in a solid profit base. Okay, because what happens if all 3 are each making 1/2? If one of them falters, you're still you're still meeting all of your requirements. This is a critical issue from my standpoint. Okay, it's something I've seen people have overlooked for decades. Well, quite frankly, they've overlooked it for centuries. But let's get down to the basics, shall we? Number 1, finances coming to balance and become a prosperity generator when you spend less than what you earn. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, now it's very much the same formula that you look at if you're looking at your health. Now, with money, if you spend less than what you earn, your baseline, your support system for your retirement becomes a profit engine. It starts climbing and setting you up properly. This is a critical issue. Okay, but to do that, you have to know how to track where your money is going. Where it comes to your weight, okay, if you put less calories into your body than you are burning, you will drop weight. And that right there is a fundamental difference between losing weight and actually dropping it. Most of the time, if people are thinking, I've got to lose some weight, what they end up doing is the weight drops away, but because they're using the concept of loss, and pretty much everybody, if you lose something, first instinct is to go and find it. The problem with weight is it usually comes back with company. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got no interest in going back to where I was. And again, this is where 2022 is over. Whatever happened in that year, it doesn't matter anymore. It is what went on to get you to where you are, but every single one of you is in that same position. Every single one of you is at a point right here, right now, that is the result of your choices from the past. That is fantastic there, Saint. And I will tell you, it becomes an issue, but one thing that I do strongly recommend you do, okay, now bear in mind, I work from home as well. Pick 2 days of the week, doesn't matter which 2, okay, pick 2 days of the week that you're not working, okay, you just close the doors, you do not book anything for those 2 days. Pick the 2 that are slowest, but pick them back to back, okay. Being a barber, I suspect that you're probably looking at Wednesday, Thursday being the best days. But that's up to you. You know your neighborhood better than I do. At least I hope so. Okay, but the reason you take 2 days off is you require time. Everybody requires time to relax. And especially in that industry, okay, it boils down to this. You set your hours out, they will come inside your hours. You do not have to be open 24/7. Okay, for me, I have picked, what I've decided is, aside from coming on here, because I will tell you this, the reality of the weekend for me, of the pulling a complete blank on English, I'm sure of it. But the reality of this live stream is I find it something to look forward to. This is not work for me. Okay. But where it comes to Inner Voice Enterprises, I will be running Monday to Friday from 7 in the morning till 3 p.m. Okay. But I've got 3 areas that I'm going to be looking at, and 3 areas of income. 1 will be my book sales. 2 will be the consulting side of things. Okay. Greetings, Dialogue. Glad you could join us. Hope your day's been going well. The second one will be consulting, personal and business. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, at the beginning of this feed, I've got roughly 100,000 clients under my belt. Okay. And professionally, as in generating an income, I've got 36 years under my belt. Okay. Of doing this. So do I have a background in it? Certainly. Okay. So I will be continuing with the consulting. Whether you call it consulting or call it psychic reading, you get to pick. I personally don't like the term psychic, which is why I build myself as a spiritual guide. I do not make decisions for people. I will not. But I will certainly take a look at where your life is heading and give you the insight as to what I'm dealing with. But one of the policies I have solidly decided on is I will only work prepaid. Way too many times somebody has said, can I just ask you one question? And on here, now do not get me wrong. On here, I have no problem. Ask me a question, knock yourself out. I will answer it as best I can. Okay, it's just that simple. I am going to have some fun trying to sort out between where to put the boundaries and not as far as email goes. But when I tell, especially the people that are on here, okay, do me a favor. Actually, don't do me a favor. Just absolutely let me know that you were on this site. Let me know. And then when you send me an email with a question, because some of your questions are really complicated and do need a little bit more insight, okay, let me know that you were on the site and this is where you're calling from. And I won't worry about the cost of it. I get emails from people that I'm not connected to, okay, or that are not on here. And this is one of those funny little places I'm dealing with an interesting situation. Okay, but will I be looking at that side of it as well? Yes. But the consulting, for those of you that have known me from the lines, because when I used to travel with the psychic fairs over a decade ago now. Well, a decade ago. Okay. I was known as a celestial prophet because I read with everything from river stones to astrology. Okay, literally everything. Okay, I have worked for a number of different psychic lines, but I am currently, quite frankly, solo. I don't have anybody to answer to except me. So will I continue doing that? Yes. But here's the one kicker for it. I prefer working video feed, which means on Skype, on Yahoo Messenger, and on LinkedIn, I know work. Okay. And FaceTime itself. Nightmare, glad you could join us. Hope your day's been going well. Now, I know I think I've got, I shouldn't say I know, let me just double check to see what I've got here. Nope, not that. I think that's it. Nope. I think I have FaceTime here, but I'm honestly not 100% certain. Oh no, what I do have, and I got to figure out how it works, is apparently I have WhatsApp, only I don't know how it works, so that's a bit sketchy for the moment. But I will be doing, like I said, the books, the consulting. I've got contracts that I am willing to do, But the other side of it, somebody asked me the other day if I am willing to do creative writing projects for people. And that depends entirely on what that project is. Okay. The other thing that you have to look at, okay, is I've still got government checks coming in, i.e. I'll have EI, I'll have the GST and what have you up here in Canada. These are all parts of my overall household income. Okay. And this is something you have to look at. If you're going to rebuild your life, really get an understanding of what you're actually dealing with. That is a critical function. Now, right now, I've got 7 books in print. I should actually put that here. This is a direct link to the different books I've got. That will take you to my actual, at least I hope that'll take you to my actual website. Let us see. I probably did that funny. Yep, I did. Let's do this and just see if we can double check something. If we go, because I think I just screwed that up. There we go. Oh no, so that should actually work. But, okay, now that I've confused myself, enough of that. When you're looking at changing, at really taking your life, okay, hopefully, now, especially, and I'm going to look at these on a specific level here. Saying, you said you're already a barber working from home. Take a look at what it costs you. Okay, I'm talking about how do you get your profit line to climb. Take a look at what you're making right now. Okay, hopefully you know what your month income was. What do we got here? Just reading, saying I've had a bizarre life, one worth speaking or writing on. Do you see that? That is a path that is absolutely open, and that's where I was going with that. That is something, if you feel your life is something that you'd like to share with people, understand something. One of the things, that was the third thing I was looking at with Inner Voice Enterprises. It'll take me about 6 months. Okay. But the short answer to your question there, Saint, is absolutely it's worth writing about. Okay. The third venue I'm going to be building is a publishing company where I'm not going to worry about the majority of it, but I'll keep you filled in on that as it goes, where I will be able, as I figure out the ins and outs. Okay. Hey, Philip, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. I will be looking at building a publishing company where you don't have to worry about your book being told it's not good enough, it's not big enough, it's not bright enough, or you haven't written it well enough for me to bother with. Okay, now this is only in its initial stages right now. Okay, and what I'm looking at is twofold. One, taking a book that somebody has and going, okay, and I will be getting a lawyer involved to make sure I get it and get the contracts written right. Okay, but I will do it my way. Okay, and what I mean by that is I will have boundaries in place and go, this is what it is. So if somebody brings a book to me, I'll be able to look at it and go, okay, yes, it's in a genre I'll deal with. Don't bother with the idea of books that talk about, snuff stories or adult entertainment stories. That kind of genre I just won't publish. It won't be a case of it's not good enough. It'll be a case of I'm not touching it. But that's my personal boundaries. Okay. Will I help with editing? I've got a phenomenal editor that is more than capable. Okay, my executive assistant, also, by the way, known as my other half, and hopefully one day to be my wife. Okay, but that's a long story in itself. The third source of income that Inner Voice Enterprises is going to have in the long run will be publishing other stories. Okay. And this is something, it boils down to going, this is the company that I'm building. This is the future I desire to bring forth. Now, here's the thing. I've made a lot of mistakes. You've made a lot of miscalculations, a lot of mistakes, as in you knew better and decided you were going to do it anyway. So I turned around and found out two neat little keys. Okay, this one being the first one. Okay, whoop, do not drop that. This one being the first one. Okay, I put that obviously in my office. I put that in on my fridge up front and on my front door. That's the first key. I am worth it. Okay. So keep that in mind as the first one. Now, where it comes to my own company, I'm not interested. Well, I am interested. Okay. Saint, I do feel for you. I will tell you this. I used to have a client and I do feel for that kind of a situation. I had a client that did 10 years hard time. Okay. Decided that was a turning point for him. And he built an empire. Okay. And speaking of which, this is what Inner Voice is going to end up doing. Okay. This is not the only thing I'm working on, but you'll notice that says we own the empire Inner Voice Enterprises. Okay. The gentleman, I had a client years ago, probably 20 at this point, did 10 years hard time, came out, opened 4 businesses, and ended up in phenomenal shape. Okay. Whatever you do, first and foremost, that, I'm just looking at this. Saint has just added into the chat room here. I was hit by a car in critical condition at 17, wrongly accused and arrested at 19, served 2.5 years in Rikers Island and prison upstairs in upstate New York, and much more after that. So you've had a rough run of it. Okay, and this is absolutely not to cut down on what you've been through. What I'm about to tell you is to show you that people that have gone through things similar to yours. Okay, one client I had spent 10 years hard time for losing his temper and beating a man to death in a bar. Another one spent years running with the Bloods, as in the Crips and the Bloods of the United States gangs. Okay, both of them turned their life around, okay, and landed on their feet. So they took their past and went, that's not me anymore. I'm moving forward. You have exactly the same opportunity. Now, I will tell you this. A story that shows what you came from, a book that tells, this is where I came from. This is how I'm evolving and what I've managed to attain now. This is one of those motivational stories that would be great for a lot of people to hear. Okay. Then the reality of it is, by doing that, you can get word to some people that really require that kind of boost of bolstering. Many people run into hardship, and I know you didn't say this to say, oh, woe is me, but there's a lot of people I talk to that really do. Okay. There was a kid down at the park one day that I was talking to. I was talking to a group of them. And another kid showed up and he was just madder than a wet hen. And I looked at the guy coming in and I asked the crowd that I was talking to, I said, any idea what's up? He seems awful mad. And it's like, well, yeah, but he's always angry like that. I says, have you guys ever thought to ask him why? Now, bear in mind, he was a teenager. At the time, I was in my mid-40s. I says, have any of you thought to ask him why? I says, something's going on that's making him mad, and I'm betting dollars to donuts. It's actually relatively easy to work with. One of the kids turned around, went and asked him. They became the best of friends within a year. Okay. That is because, when you're dealing with people, most people have some sort of a challenge. Okay, I could go into all sorts of things I went through. I'm not going to. I'm looking at where I am right now. And if I can share some of what I've been through, just like you there, Saint, if you can share what you've been through, and even one person can take a look at that and go, oh, well, Saint went through this and he's standing in this position. How can I do the same thing? How can I replicate the same thing? 50,000 years ago, I lived in an environment where there was no jealousy. There was no fear. There was no famine. Okay, there was some envy, but that was, oh, gee, you did that really well. How do I do it? And we voluntarily helped each other. Now, a story like that, Saint, and this is probably speaking on turn because it's going to take you a while to do this anyway, but it's that kind of a story that I'd take a look at right off the bat when I get the publishing company up and running properly. That's one of those stories I'd look at. And it's not a question of, oh, it's not written properly or it's got to have more excitement to it or whatever. It will be a question of, okay, that's your story. You've got 2 questions to answer, and these are the only 2 I can think of presently. Okay. Is 1, is this a story the way you desire it done? If the answer is yes, we just simply look at the cost of publishing. Will I end up making money off it? You bet your bottom dollar I will. But I will guarantee that the way I look at it, you're doing the work, therefore. So I go, this is what it's going to cost, and here's the percentage we get. But this is where the lawyer comes in to make sure I write the contracts properly. The second option will be, if you aren't happy with the way it's written, do you want it edited? If so, here it is. Absolutely fantastic there, Saint. So you're a young sprog. This is great. But no, not even getting a ticket, is fantastic, especially with that. What that tells me, and probably tells a lot of people, is that you learned from your miscalculation. Okay. A lot of us really do that, Philip. Many people have been taught, well, we've been taught from the get-go, fear everything. I mean, take a look at how many people, when they're talking about 2022, I did this wrong, I should have done this, I could have done this better, I made this mistake, etc., etc. And you go back regretting everything that you did ineffectively in 2022. I mean, I could look at the fact that in the last 5 years, I have spent in getting somebody else to publish my books. I have spent over $10,000, which means in my income levels, that means I have spent over half a year's income in wasted as in they didn't say what they were, and they didn't do what they said they would, expenses on publishing. So I intend on building a publishing company that when we say, this is what it's going to cost, that's what it's going to be. Okay, I've already got a website that I'm starting to work with. And this is why I say it may be 6 months before I get the publishing side of it up and running. Lacey, that is absolutely fantastic. 5 years off the booze is absolutely phenomenal. This is one of these things that you look in the mirror and you go, I used to do this, I'm not doing it, I'm happy. The trick is looking at it going, I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm not going back to it. Because it's and this is one of the things that I really desire to do with especially with this channel, okay, is one of the things I'm aiming at doing is helping people connect, helping people realize that yes, everybody's got their hiccups, and to that event, to that point, both Saint and Lacey, really happy you shared these very trying periods with us, because they do show, yes, you've gone through them, but you're landing on your feet and you're pushing forward. Okay. By the way, that's not a therapist. Phil's just said, I had a therapist who never asked me why I'd sought out help. Instead, just pummeled me with assumptions. Probably, needless to say, I never got the courage to open up and confide in her. And in all likelihood, that's the case. Okay. The first mistake that most therapists that I've dealt with, and I've seen them for years, haven't seen a therapist now since 2007. Okay. When he retired. That's not true. I talked to two since then. Okay. But the one thing that most therapists, most psychologists, most counselors do is they focus on what's wrong with you. How did you get to where you are? That's not a relevant concern. How you got to where you are is really not the biggest issue, because most of you likely don't know how you got into that mess or what caused the problem. Most of you are looking at it going, I'm here now. How do I move forward? So the trick with what I call proper or effective consulting or counseling or, psychotherapy, however you want to put it, the most effective method is to go, okay, what is going on with you? What are you feeling right now? That's what we're going to work on shifting gears on or shifting focus with. Yeah, and Philip, that's the nice part about it. Counselors are useful, but you got to find one that actually encourages you to, number one, open up, and much more importantly, to look forward, not to look backward. Okay, we can all look in the rearview mirror and say, I did this wrong. I've got that neat little voice in my head that says, I probably shouldn't have said that. But it's already been said, so I'm pretty much hooked. Okay, but I will tell you this, especially in your case, Saint, writing your story, getting it down on paper, I have no doubt, because it's worked with a staggering number of people. Writing it down will help get that negative feeling out of your primary thinking and onto physical paper, where it can now be taken, turned into a book, turned into an inspirational book, and away you go with it. Okay, is this something well worth doing? Absolutely. But I will tell you still require an income. So whatever you do not quit a stable income in favor of a possible income. Oh, yeah. I mean, life can be, for me, it's been, here we are. Eris, how we dealing with? How you doing? Tells you how well my brain's working on occasion. The important factor from my, and thank you so much for that there, Eris. I'm presuming this means you've already read it, but even if you haven't, from my standpoint, welcome aboard. And if I haven't said it to some of you, Happy New Year. Now, like I've been very clear, I am, at least I've tried to be, one of my goals for this year is to bring my YouTube channel up to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really love, assuming you like what we're talking about and the way things are going, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and hit that little subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, that would be really appreciated. And I suspect by the look of this, we may have hit a snag here on the feed. Let us just refresh that and see if it's going. My computer does weird things, so I'm not always certain if it does. There we go. Well, at least it's still running. What do we got here? So from my standpoint, bonus. This year, 2023, I am firmly driving from my standpoint, I really would love to see this year turn into an absolutely stellar year for everyone. But the key to doing that is for you taking a look at your own life and going, this is what I'm not content with. And how am I going to shift gears? How am I going to focus on things to make it a better world in my world? Because I will tell you this, one person will not change the world. One stone does not make an avalanche, but one stone dislodged does make it and does cause it and does bring about an avalanche. One drop of water does not create a flood, but a whole pile of drops of water absolutely will. Now, we spent the last 2 or 3 years now dealing with a pandemic. Personally, I'm a firm believer it is about time we really join hands and really push to start another pandemic. But you'll like this one. Okay, let's start a fantastic pandemic. Okay, number 1, smile. Number 2, greet everyone you meet with a friendly greeting. Okay, make this part of 2023, where by the end of 2023, or in the immediate, even way before that, every one of you can look in the mirror and go, when I meet people, I'm actually feeling a little better about meeting them instead of fearing them. Oh my gosh, that person is a different color. They don't have the same belief as I do. Okay, I just found out the other day that an individual I know is going through some serious complications. Where are we? Yeah, and that honestly, Lacey, that's an excellent way of doing it. Lacey's just saying, I have a book I work on. I call it the scratch pad. Words and inspired art questions and answers from source. Putting a pen in my hand and allowing it to move. Okay. And this, again, is one of those things. It's these kinds of stories that so few publishers will actually take on. And what I'm seeing here, let's face it, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and all of a sudden, there are 2 stories here that I would love to have the capacity to already put to print. They're not ready. Okay, but it's stories like this that so many publishers are overlooking. Okay, there are so many talented people out there. I personally would love to see 2023 become a year of joy, of communication, of cooperation. Scrap this whole thing about fear. Negative things do happen, but it is time we start actually looking at the positive side of them. Okay. Here's a neat thing, just to add a thought to that, Lacey. Okay. Like Lacey said, I see it being a teenager's guidebook. I will tell you, I know a staggering number of adults that have the same problem. Okay. Absolutely pick an area that you feel it's best suited for. But understand, what I've dealt with over the last, really 49 years, because I started doing my work when I was 10. Okay. I didn't get a license to do it until I was 23. Okay, but I started at 10. So I've got 49 years of watching people. And I will tell you what many teenagers go through. There's a staggering number of adults that are still going through because they never figured out how to heal it. In all deference, it really isn't their complication. When you think about it, the people they were talking to didn't know how to help them. Yeah, and this is the whole catch to it. There are some systems in place that are beautifully set up, and this is why I tell people that the systems that are out there, the government, the Lawyers Association that watches for the unethical, for the mistreatment of clients, these systems work. There are problems with them, absolutely. But this doesn't mean that they need to be overthrown. It doesn't mean they need to be wiped out. It means that we have to work with them. And the methods I'm talking about are used in conjunction with things that are already there. Oddly enough, Lacey, many of the psychologists and psychiatrists that I talk to, and even for that matter, many of the health practitioners, what they've done is they've gone into it because of things they were having trouble with themselves. Okay, I got into the writing side of it because, in all fairness, it just kind of worked out that way. I did at one point look at becoming a long-haul driver, a long-haul trucker. Because for me, that will put me out of contact with people. I've had this reclusive tendency, quite literally, since kindergarten. Okay, maybe before that, but I can certainly quantify since kindergarten. So this has not been a short thing. Oh yeah, very definitely. Like I used to have Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People. Okay, I read that one myself, cover to cover. Beautiful book, but it's time for people to put these books out. Again, when I grew up, there was another beautiful psychologist, Dr. Spock, and Irma Bombeck, all of which had beautiful tales that explained a lot. Okay. The neat part there, Lacey, I had a client years ago that originally wanted to be a doctor and then got sidetracked because life took her in all sorts of directions. But here's the kicker to it. I met her at 52, and she told me she had always desired to be a doctor. Well, I worked with her until she was 60. At the time she reached 60, she was an MD. So for you to become a counselor, honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are. It really doesn't. Start becoming one now. Okay. Become what you feel drawn to. But whatever you do, don't quit your day job. If you've got a stable income, build your secondary income on the side. Yeah, not quite, but the same idea. It might be time there saying to really pay attention in this case. I mean, my very, very, at least I hope it's a very, very belated condolences regarding your mom's passing. The reality of it is this. Every one of us has the capacity to influence people around us. And I'm a firm believer that if we focus on, or more to the point, when we focus on ways to help people feel better about themselves and feel more confident in the ability to interact with others, instead of talking about, oh, you're a bad person, you're a different person than me, therefore you're bad. I shocked the daylights out of somebody the other day. I've known them for a long time. And they turned around and told me they are going through gender reassignment. Now, for me, knock yourself out. I've got nothing against it. It's not my bag. It's not my outlook on life. It's theirs. And they absolutely were stunned when I'm like, okay. They went, you don't have a problem with it. I said, why would I have a problem with it? Doctors aren't going near me. We all have a gift. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses, and that puts everybody on equal footing. Okay. I only just lost my mom in 2019. My dad passed in 2016. Like 2010, my brother died. 2016, Dad went. 2019, Mom went. And 2022, I lost another brother. Technically, I didn't lose him. I know exactly where he is. Okay. The neat little part about it. Oh, absolutely, Eris. Okay, absolutely ask the question. Because the odds are quite good that whatever your question, the odds are other people in the chat room or other people listening into this later will have the same or similar question. It's the reality is the laws, like there are laws in law enforcement that are absolutely hung up. Okay, there are laws that are completely backwards. I know of a set of laws where the people involved with them are taught how to spot the problem, but their hands are legally tied, so you can't do anything until the damage is done. Now, to me, this is just wrong. Okay, so what I'm looking at, especially at this point, okay, a couple of things that you can do with that, Eris. And my condolences for the people that have passed away. Can't do anything about the emotional things. Okay, about the emotional attachment to it. But where it comes to the clutter, okay, ask yourself this. Aside from, does it have an emotional tie to you? Does it mean something to you that they had it? Okay, aside from that, if it doesn't have a personal attachment, the memory of it is still going to be there. Okay, but I suggest, and this is why I did what we're doing with my family's belongings that don't have an emotional clutter or that don't have that emotional tie, is you find somebody where it can be useful, where you feel that particular relative or that particular friend that has passed away, find somebody that could utilize, that your friend would think it was a good thing that they got some use out of it. Because I will tell you this, with the number of dead people I've spoken to over the years, the one thing they prefer is not for their stuff to remain in a box where you can hang on to it and hide it, but where that love, that feeling that they have, and this really applies strongly to things like Christmas decorations. Okay, the dead quite often would rather it was passed on to somebody else that can use it, not necessarily sold, just given away. Doesn't matter. You get to pick that one. Okay, you take a look at it and make sure that you're giving it to somebody. One of the things that can help is turning it over to somebody that you feel can use that item, that will appreciate that item. Okay, instead of leaving it locked in a closet or in a drawer or wherever, where what it's literally doing is it's providing an anchor to the past. It's actually, simply put, it actually stops you from moving forward. And to put that slightly better perspective, many of the deceased will look at the stuff you're hanging on to and going, you've got to let go of it. It's not helping you, and I certainly don't need it anymore. I know you're going to remember me because that's the way that energy works. That's the way that life works. Okay, so by taking that stuff and distributing it to people that can actually benefit from it, can put it to use, okay, is something that would be really advantageous, even especially perhaps from the deceased standpoint, where you're able to actually help them move on because you're making sure that the emotions, the positive emotions that you feel towards them and that they presumably felt towards you are now being dispersed out amongst the world. This is a way of helping them find rest as well. Okay, just an idea. But it really boils down. I mean, I cannot make the final decision for you. Okay. Gee, I always, I never actually broke healing down into a stages thing. For me, it was a little strange. At 5 years old, they diagnosed me dead, and I have walked out of the morgue. I've never seen life and death the same way. But I did come to understand really quickly that people's understanding of death is a whole lot more fear-based than it is reality-based. Now, of course, this is my experience. I know a lot of people that came near death and were scared to pieces with it. Okay, I just happened to go a little further than most. See, the trick with other family members there, and this is just something I found out, Cliff. If you've got other family members, and this is what my brother did with both of the estates he's been handling, right? Is he's asked us, is there anything in these people's belongings that you would really like to have before any of it got disposed of? If somebody wants it and you're trying to get rid of it, don't question what they desire it for. Let them take it out of your hands. Yeah, I can't do much about that. I understand where you're coming from there, Eris. Sometimes, because I've never made any bones about it. The reality is I'm not subtle. The whole idea of being politically correct to me just didn't work. I've been told, I was told years ago I needed to learn tact. I'm still trying to figure out why. But these are just some of the things that I found that I was handed as far as ways that other people have dealt with it. For me, it's a very different setup. Well, thank you so much there, Lacey. I do appreciate that. I am absolutely amazed at my feelings towards doing these live feeds. This is not something I ever expected to actually look forward to. But, I've got my alarm set for 4 o'clock in the afternoon in case I get tied up doing something. I was literally just settling down to watch a movie and to do some writing when my alarm went off. Okay. So the alarm goes off. I look at it. It's like 4 o'clock. I got live feed in half an hour. Drop what I'm doing, and here I am. Okay. And yes, I did say earlier, pick 2 days a week that you're not on. Okay. And the reality for me is I did pick 2 days a week that I'm not actually doing live feeds. One is on Thursdays, because that's both Thursday and Sunday I game. Okay. I play Dungeons and Dragons. That's my way of breaking away from things. Yeah, and that's, the funny part about it is that I look at it going, I've never seen myself as anything, quite frankly, anything special. My self-esteem when I was growing up was literally so low. And then you get this, how low was it? Well, it was literally so low that I wouldn't even talk to my parents about what I was feeling, because my feelings did not matter to me. I did not feel they mattered to anybody else. Okay. And this is why, I've been asked by a lot of people, this whole UFO conference down in Las Vegas in May. I mean, Dave has been passing on. A lot of people have been asking if I'm going to be coming down there. Saint, absolutely. Do have yourself a great day, and absolutely get started with that. Get started with that writing. It's an excellent place to put some energy. Okay, absolutely a great place. I've been asked, like Dave has been passing on, Dave out of Spaced Out Radio has been passing on that people are asking, am I going to Vegas? Well, I made a call today to get a response. I wonder if it's come back. To get a response from a travel agent that I do trust. Let's see, I'm going here and nope, that's not what I'm looking for. So we come back over. I've got a call in. Okay. I've got a call in to set things in motion to make it happen. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I was gonna say you've got to be in the eastern or in the eastern hemisphere, aren't you? There. That's to you, Philip. You got to be over in either England or yeah, England would work, or over in Australia, because my brother was an Elvis fan, and that was January. Was he? Yeah, he was born January 8th of '77. I think is when it was. Oh, because first and foremost, I don't travel well on my own. Okay. Like in answer to your question there, Carl, I'm up in Kelowna, BC, Canada. Las Vegas, Nevada is down in the States. Okay, and I do not travel well to start with. So getting a travel agent to book the plane and book the hotel for me means I get on the plane, I go down, and quite seriously, because I've got a bad leg, they can arrange for a wheelchair for me to get to and from the different locations. Makes it so much less stressful for me. That's the biggest issue. Um, yeah, I have no. Oh, you're down in. That's where you are. Okay. Yeah, my problem. I mean, I can get lost in my own apartment. So what ends up happening is if I'm going to the airport, I phone the cab up, and phone a cab up, or phone somebody up and go, get me to the airport. It'll cost me a little bit of money, but that money for me is well worth the drop in stress level. The nice part about it is, from my standpoint, am I planning on making the trip? The answer is yes. Absolutely, I am. Okay. I won't know for a few days whether or not that can happen, but at least I've started looking into it. But what I'm looking at is going, okay, 2022 is over. 2023 is time for me to step out of the background and go, okay, time for me to turn the lights on and actually make things happen in my life, and hopefully by doing so encourage some of you to do what's been happening here, help you open up a little, help you realize that you really can change your life for the better. Okay, you're the one that's got the power to do it. You may not have the tools, you may not have the know-how, but that is where the people in this room are really helping up, are really stepping up to the plate. And this is fantastic. Yeah, I found out, I talked to Dave, and the casino that they're all using is the Golden Nugget. So that's the one I'm going to be targeting. And this is why I'm aiming at getting a hold of the travel agent now to make this happen. Okay. Because from my standpoint, if I'm going to go there, the less I have to travel, the far happier I'm going to be. That's just, and yes, I will, in answer to the question that some people have already asked me, make sure I've got something that can, where the trip can be canceled if I have to. Okay. So I will absolutely be making that a reality. It's funny. One of the first questions I got asked was, how do you pick the right machine? Because I've only gone into a casino myself 9 times in my entire life. 8 of them, I came out with more money than I went in with. Okay. But I don't gamble. I really don't. One of the things I have found is that when you're talking to people, like I look at a lot of the posts that are being posted, and I'm like, okay, if you people actually were to talk to people that have gone through this sort of thing, you may be able to find a way to stand on, you may be able to find a way to see a positive outcome or a way of coping with it that's not being covered. And this is one of the primary reasons why I look at what I'm doing and go, okay, if you've got a question, absolutely ask. Because I have found that most questions that people are asking, at least 4 or 5 other people in the room have the same questions. In this case, it could be a lot more than that. Guess I have to look where my coffee cup is. I had to swap coffee cups. The other one finally wore out. You know, the big brown one I had, you think about it. I worked it out the other day because it was used daily, at least 3 cups of coffee a day for 25 years. Okay, meaning that plastic cup on top of going into the mic, that at least once a day, that plastic cup had over 1,000 gallons of coffee. Call it just water pouring over it. It finally wore out. I love it, Lacey. Was I on the spectrum? I don't know. You were the smartest one we had, so don't check. It's funny. In my experience, the whole idea of saying you're on the spectrum or you're not is counterproductive. You are an individual, and this is something I had to come to realize myself. I have no idea if I'm on the spectrum. I do know 3 shrinks, 3 psychiatrists, clinical psychiatrists that have been trained, have said, my mind works perfectly, little hyperactive, but I don't have a problem per se, aside from my temper with dealing with what I consider stupid people, which is where part of the godsend came in when they closed the company I was working for. Because I will tell you, having spent this is 2023 now, but from 95, so I spent 27 years working on psychic lines. Okay. And one of the most common questions I got asked was literally, I'm having financial difficulties. What should I do? And of course, my first instinct, I never told one of them this, was quit phoning a line that charges $3.5 minutes for the $3.5 a minute for the person to even say hello. This is just a waste of money. I've seen those things before. The INTJ, I did take it years ago, but I never paid much attention to it, and I don't recall what mine were anyway. But the reality is, what I found is that it's not so much what other people diagnose you with. It's what you come to accept. Pointing fact from what I've seen. If you tell a child consistently, you're stupid, you will have a child believe they are stupid. Okay. And they will start behaving in stupid fashions. I've seen way too many people's self-confidence shattered by people saying, you don't know what you're doing. Okay. I spent my life, the reason I personally do not sing is because literally all the time growing up, I was told I could not sing, as in I didn't have a capacity for it. Well, sad to say, not only did I never really pay attention to singing, but I ended up turning around and going, I'm just not going to bother. I never developed an interest in it. Okay. Sometimes, Lacey, you don't have to know exactly what's going on. If talking to your spirit friends makes you feel better, or helps you cope with things, carry on. Okay. It's like when people have a loved one that passes away. You got 3 ways of coping with it. Well, technically 4. You can sit down and collapse in a ball of blubbering tears. Okay, is one option. In my opinion, not a great one. Second option, pull out a picture of that individual to help bring them clearly to mind, and talk to them as though they're really there. I will tell you, they are. 99% of the time, they are there. But if you're trying to talk directly to them, you talk to them in yes and no answers, in things that can be clearly answered in a yes or no. Now, the most common places you'll get a response is on your forearms or on the back of your neck, in the way of a tingly feeling. Now, whether it is a real or imagined sensation is 100% irrelevant if what it does is helps you cope and helps you feel a little bit more secure. Okay, that's the first step. That's step, and that's option 2. Option 3, do the same thing, but go down to any gravesite. And it doesn't even matter if it's that person's gravesite. Go down to any graveyard and sit there and talk out loud to the individual with the same idea. Okay, because nobody questions if there's somebody talking and crying in a graveyard. Nobody questions it. Even the dead don't question it. Okay. That would be the issue. Okay. The fourth method, and this is personally the one I like, but you'll understand why it's a little off kilter. You go down to whatever restaurant you're comfortable in. Might be an idea to go into one that you're not a regular at, and sit there with that picture and talk out loud to the picture. Now, it will draw some people's odd stares. From my standpoint, hey, what the heck? Okay. Personally, because I talk to the dead all the time, it doesn't matter from my end. Okay. Now, presumably, Lacey, you're looking at this. Okay, you've asked, what about ET? Okay. When we're doing, I have to have these same I don't have to. I have many of these same conversations with all kinds of different races, off-worlders, ancient races, doesn't matter. Okay, I have the same conversations with plants. I had one the other day, and it sounds absolutely twisted, but I had a conversation the other day with a blade of grass that was feeling it wasn't doing its own thing. It wasn't holding its own in becoming the right color. And what I had to do was help him understand that, look, yeah, you're not the same color, but you are your color. And that's all you have to fit to. Just reading this here, Philip. Philip's written in, when you've been excluded from access to public accommodations, i.e. lunch counters, bars, restaurants, etc., because sometimes you need a break due to sensory overload. Okay, what I usually do there, number one, you go to places that you're not really, for me, I've got one restaurant in the city. I only go there at 11 o'clock in the morning because that's when it opens, and it usually doesn't start getting active until about 12:30. So for me, that's where I end up going. That's just it. And the problem there, Philip, is people are taught to fear. People are taught from the get-go. If something is not identical to you, fear it. It's frightening, it's scary, it's evil. Push it away. Now, this, unfortunately, is what many of the mainstream religions and educational industries actually teach you. Okay. Even with many of the psychiatrists and psychologists that are out there. And psychiatrists, what they do is go, you're broken. Here's a pill. Take it. It'll make you fit in. This doesn't work well. Okay, it works great to keep some people balanced. And I'm a firm believer the medication is necessary in some cases. Okay, but people absolutely are some of the cruelest individuals I've run into on this planet. Don't get me wrong, they're not the only ones. And there are countless examples of animals that do the same thing. I grew up on a farm, and every now and again you'd get a black chicken and a black chick, totally white chickens. They gave birth to a black chick. The white chickens would actually kill it because it was different. iVoices, glad you could join us. Okay, if I haven't spoken to you before, Happy New Year. Okay. The sad part there, one other little point, and I will get to your question in just 5 seconds here, iVoices. Philip, there are, when you're looking at the neurodivergence, okay, I know people in the gay community that literally will look at each other and go, you're not gay because you've got kids, and they start separating themselves. This is just blatantly wrong. There is not a person on the planet that thinks identical to another one. Okay. That's just the reality. Okay, now, iVoices. First of all, do fairies exist? The answer is absolutely. In my experience, 100%. There ain't many things that I rock that up on. But fairies are absolutely real. Okay. Do they kidnap people? Problem there is no, but people do end up in their world or in their phase, if you will, because fairy rings do exist, and people do get trapped in them. Is it an intentional malice thing on the fairies' part? No. Okay. Sometimes it's because one of them is being a little silly and says, gee, this would be funny to see how this person reacts. But the problem is, because fairies live for so long, they see 100 years as a drop in the bucket. They just don't register time the same way. I absolutely agree with you there, Philip. But no, the nice part there, iVoices, the nice part there is, yes, they really do exist. So if you're seeing them around you, it is not likely your imagination. But I will tell everybody out there this. The imagination is the key to seeing things going on. Because seeing is not believing, but believing is literally seeing. Okay. Yeah, the funny part there, Lacey, and you're absolutely correct. If you're not being authentic, if you're trying to come across in order to fit in, that's only going to hold for so long. And when they do find out that you're not being authentic in the first place, they'll throw you out anyway. So I just figure, I'll just open my mouth and go, this is the way I am. If you're content with it, this is great. If you're not content with it, well, I can't do much about that because this is me. Yeah, well, Socrates drank a lot of things he shouldn't have, but he was a brilliant man. I'm just looking at this. Where was it? Who was it? Philip just reported here. Socrates drank hemlock over being excluded from his community. Yeah, he did. He wasn't the only one, but I will tell you this. Drinking hemlock is not a good idea. Many, many, many people that I've talked to, okay, and I do mean literally that I've talked to after they've committed suicide, did so because they were not accepted for being themselves. All they were doing, the person I talked to the other day told me they were going through this transition. They did not like their body the way it was, and they were making this transition. I went, okay, so what name are you going by? And they immediately started to backpedal and went, no, you can still go by the name that I was given when I was born. It doesn't matter. I said, it does matter. I said, if that's not who you desire to be known as, then it doesn't matter to me. I'll go with whatever name works. There are, I mean, that is fantastic there, Eris. You know, the fact that you have found yourself like you. I've learned that I am me, and that's just the way it is. I like my own company. Okay, so I don't leave my house if I don't have to. Not for the most part. What is this? Philip, you have way, way, way more, if you will, recorded information than I ever did. Okay. Yeah, but you got to remember, between those two, Plato was building on things. And both of them had a different personality. Like, I will absolutely tell you, there are people out there that are absolutely horrendous individuals, socially speaking. But it takes people like those to help people that are really on the positive side to recognize they're on the positive side to start with. See, and this is what happens there, Eris. If social acceptance is not unilateral in a community, the community will fracture, which is how the gay and lesbian society got started. Okay, it got started because not everybody was accepting them, so they started to congregate together. But now what's happened is, again, they're doing exactly the same thing to themselves. Okay, where they're finding things, oh, you're not exactly as I am, therefore I'm going to ostracize you. And that society is fracturing. Our job, in my opinion, and certainly the job I returned to this world for, was to help people realize that this is going on and start to help people figure out where the tools are to put things back together. If I recall correctly, Plato was actually a student of Socrates. Okay, fortunately, he didn't follow the same path as in the Hemlock routine. At least I hope he didn't follow that path, because it does seem to be a bit short-sighted. But there are staggering numbers of people that have helped people that you don't even know you've helped. I know one woman I ran into. I was outside a bank machine, and she was begging and she was asking for money. The problem was she did not feel like she belonged there. Okay. Here's the sad part. I was talking to somebody, but anyway, she come up and asked for money. I'll tell you, the moment I gave her, because her problem was her husband just lost a job. They had twins, no food, and they couldn't get a welfare check for 2 days. Okay, like a social services check. So she had no way to function. So I gave her $20 and she took off. I'll tell you the extreme happiness I felt come off her that took her out of the lineup. She went straight into the grocery store. Okay. And that's the kind of thing I would love to see being propagated here. Okay. I was talking to a friend of mine. What we're going through right now, and especially if you're one of these people that looks back in history and looks for what's written. A friend of mine just the other day was saying, what we're going through right now is exactly the same thing we went through 40 years ago, back in the 80s. Different hairstyles, different dress code. Okay, but the situation is virtually identical. Okay, things compare, there is an old saying that goes, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Okay, what people are not reminded of is that if those that dwell on history have exactly the same problem, they end up recreating it. Now, I would love to see things happen where what we're doing is focusing on the positive sides of things. That's the funny thing, because I do agree with you. I do agree with you there, YJ. But here's the thing: The massive majority of people, I've been here 59 years, the massive majority of people live inside a 9-block square area. Okay, that's it. Yes, there's 8 billion people on the planet, but the massive majority of people live in this small area. Now, that can range from a couple of hundred people to a few thousand. Okay, yes, there are more people, but this just means there are more good people, positively charged people, more negatively, and more neutral people. Okay, the ratios are still, from what I've seen, pretty much the same. And absolutely, Lacey, this is absolutely the situation. Honestly, Eris, I'm not entirely certain what the fourth turning is, but I do know this. Let me think. We go Lemuria, Rome, Greece, and modern day. If it refers to the... Okay. If it refers to... What do we got here? If the fourth turning refers to the number of times we've reached outer space or reached this kind of technological advancement, then it pretty much adds up. Ultimately, Cliff, from my experience and from my memories, here's the way that all worked. Okay, religion came about. What do we got here? That question is, did philosophy not precede religion? Okay, or or vice versa in man's many tribes. Here's the way things worked. Okay, before religion came into the equation, okay, you have groups of people gathering around, and they're afraid of things they don't understand. So somebody comes along, can't tell you who. Okay, haven't got a clue who. Somebody comes along and goes, "Oh, I hear the thunder crashing. I can explain that." And they turned around. Now, before I finish that thought, understand, I am a 100% staunch believer in God. Okay, but they came along and went, there's a thunderclap. That's the thunder god. He is upset. This is why he's making noise. Okay, that's where philosophy started. It's like, I can explain this. That's what's happening. Because people didn't know any better, they turned to the people that were coming up with ideas and went, well, that's a better answer than I had, so let's run with it. That would be the first one. Now, what do we got here? Many, the reality of it is, I don't know any of the prophecies, but what happened is you ended up with the wise men that were coming up with reasons, with explanations for what was going on. Why was the water rising? Well, we can explain this, and because of that, the wise men were considered the ones to listen to. So they'd come up with an idea, sometimes totally outlandish. But they started leading people that way. Then somewhere along the line, somebody figured out how to make money on that thought process. And now we have all kinds of other little complications going on. No, elephants don't. Okay. I get a kick out of this. Well, here's the funny thing, Eris. When you compare spirituality to religion, from what I've seen, literally what you're finding in most cases, I don't know about your people, okay, but what I have found is there's a staggering similarity between what people call spirituality and what they call religion. Okay, and that applies to mainstream, to spirituality, mainstream religion, the pagan religions. All of them have a very common denominator. And this does not make any of them less valuable than the next. It boils down to one little detail. In the community you're working in, do your people treat each other in the same way they desire to be treated themselves? Okay, many different belief structures exist on this planet, because let's face it, there are many different individuals and no two are alike. Okay. Star, Happy New Year. Glad you could join us. You know, I like this one, Cliff, the Spaghetti Monster God. You know, I don't know, when I was a kid, I used to call it Pusgetti, which I don't think was pronounced right, but I do understand that a lot of kids go there. You know, where I can't, you know, from my standpoint, I look at it and go, I don't read the history books for a couple of reasons. One is there's an old saying that goes, history is written by the survivors, which is true. Okay. The second one is my memories date back where I don't have all the information. I am not the only knowledge point. Okay, but you know, I tell people, I'm quite willing to discuss pretty much anything, because the way a discussion goes for me is this. You have your perspective, I have my perspective. If when all is said and done, if my viewpoint has shifted more in your direction, then you had more of a stable grounding in it, or a quantifiable one, even if it's from an emotional base, than I did, and therefore mine was missing something. If mine still stays stable and yours goes into question, then we have the other end of it. Okay. Yeah. But it really boils down to looking in the mirror and asking yourself, the only laws I ever follow, and every religion, every belief structure, every you know, for so-called First Nations tribe that I've talked to, all of them fit into these three laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Now, the funny part about it is when you really boil it down, most of the various different belief structures have part of the truth. And the way it was put to them way, way, way back was not, this is the one true religion. It was literally, every one of these different religions and belief patterns got part of the truth. If you want the whole picture, get along. Apparently, the getting along thing was sort of missed in the translation. Okay, but this is where we're at now. This is 2023. This is the time to really look at it and go, you know, and accept the fact that a belief structure, whether you want to call it a religion, a belief, a spiritual path, a support group, it doesn't matter. When, you know, William Shakespeare stated it best when he said, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Okay. You know, if you think about it, all the really beautiful, all the flowers that we call beautiful, okay, years and years and years ago, were considered nothing but weeds. Okay. So what we've got is people marketing weeds to make them sound like a beautiful thing. Okay. You take a look at it. Where I was growing up, when I grew up in the Comox Valley, okay, we had two colors of lawns. Okay, you had green and you had yellow. Okay, because it rained all the time. You know, we had rain all the time, so you either had a green lawn or you had dandelions all over the place. Now, for me, it was like, okay, well, it's just green and yellow. Some people looked at the dandelions and went, that's terrible. You know, that just looks terrible. Others looked at it and went, perfect crop for dandelion wine. Okay, I loved a post I saw on Facebook one day that goes, you know, it shows this guy, his front lawn, it shows dandelions all over the place, and everybody else has green lawns around him. And one of his neighbors had complained and said, you know, this is absolutely disgusting. Do something about your dandelions. So the guy did something. He puts a sign on the front line and says, dandelion, pick all you'd like. free dandelions, pick all you like. Now, he took it and went, there's something I did. I don't think that's what the guy had in mind. Okay, I'm just reading this here. Philip has written in one neat piece of history I read. A father who'd been falsely accused of witchcraft and consorting with the devil because he wouldn't name his neighbors as witches, wrote a letter to be smuggled to his daughter after his execution. His guards smuggled the letter to the man's daughter. It literally, and the reality of it is, from my standpoint, I actually was a warlock during the witch hunts. Now understand, I was an active witch working for the government to find witches. Okay, to hunt them down. But you got to understand, I went out and I took a little bit of a twist on it. I'd go out and I'd check out, and somebody would be accused of witchcraft, so I'd go out and find out. If they were just an herbalist, a midwife, a veterinarian trying to help the locals, and they were keeping it quiet, right? Then from my standpoint, I'd go, no, you're not actually a problem. If they were causing a problem, okay, and many of them did, they would be witches. They'd be tried as a witch and terminated. If they were not actually a problem, what I would do is I'd turn around, and whoever had brought the claim up, I would investigate them and find out what was going on. And if they were doing it just because they were spiteful, okay, I would turn around and have them listed as a witch. They'd be tried, executed, but the property would come up for grabs for a song. So I'd turn around and buy the property and then move them, the quiet witches, onto the property, whereby they were no longer problem. They were no longer complicated. They were free to carry on life. We all have a strength. It may not be the same as everybody else. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me there, Phelps. There were some pretty horrendous things that happened. And rest assured, much as I was I was a little twisted where it came to that. There were witch hunters out there that would do it just because. They wouldn't even wait for somebody to be accused. They'd do the accusing themselves as a reason to be able to torture somebody. But there are bad people in every walk of life, in every spiritual path, in every religion, okay, in every income bracket. There are bad people, there are good people. Okay, and I'm a firm believer that, a good 90-95% of people are genuinely good. Okay, I really am. I became reclusive for a lot of reasons. Okay, but I'm a firm believer that the ratios are literally that high. But we all have off days. We all have tension points. But every single individual has a point. Some are to show us what we can aspire to be. Some people come into our lives to show us what we desire to stay away from. Ultimately, it does. Because you got to, Eris is asking if warlock means oathbreaker. And essentially it does, because you got to remember, one of the witches' laws is harm none. A warlock was literally a witch that took their talent. And yes, that means I was doing a real bad thing from the witch's standpoint. Okay, they took their talent and turned around and worked for the government. In my case, in many of the warlocks' cases, they would turn around, okay, and you will find that most warlocks were male. Okay. And that I don't doubt at all. You'd be amazed how many politicians I had hung for that. Or burned. Take your pick. Okay. But no, what ended up happening with many warlocks is they would use it to protect themselves, and then they just got high on the power and went, I'm going to harm people so I don't have to worry about it. Now, this is an evil act. I just happen to do it a little differently. Was some of what he was doing evil? Absolutely. Burning somebody at the stake for accusing an innocent person, okay, may not be considered a good thing, but it was effective. By the way, not justifying it by any means. I've had some lifetimes that were absolutely horrendous. This lifetime, I just happened to be a pacifist. Okay, you would be amazed how many people have been dispossessed of their homes, dispossessed of their lives because of political or greed-oriented, manufactured evidence. You want a prime example that many people passed away from, okay, or lost their businesses from. The hemp industry went into a dormant stage because the cotton magnates had better political pull and they wanted to be able to sell more of their cotton. Much as fighting fire with fire is a cute thought, there's one problem with it, Eris. If you've got fire, most people that fight fire with fire, what they do is they add to the conflagration. Now, if you look at fighting fire with fire from the standpoint of actually putting it ahead of itself to stop it from burning out, okay, to stop it from creating a massive mess, this works. But most people that live by that fight fire with fire are the same people that live with the idea peace means superior firepower. Okay, this is what leads to war. Okay, and the reality is that firepower, that war has never brought peace. It has brought quiet, but it does not bring peace. It does not bring prosperity, except for the people making the guns. Oh, absolutely, Star. Star's just saying that, it could have been because the person was smart. The smart people have always been feared because the smarter somebody is, the harder they are to control. And this is exactly what's going on with the modern school system. People are being taught less and less how to think and more what to think. Okay, it makes it easier. If you keep everybody in the dark, then it makes it much easier to get away with what you're aiming for. Now, do not get me wrong. The school system itself, the structure that it's built with, is built properly. Okay. Carl's just asking, Keith, did you choose your current life? What, if so, how much of it did you choose? Okay. In a nutshell, there, Cliff, the answer is yes. But my current life, when I made the decision, was to literally see what was happening on this planet when it was being built. Okay. I made a choice to come here. What I didn't count on, and this is the same thing you've all got. You've got freedom of choice. You've got freedom of will. What you don't have is freedom of consequence. So when I chose to come to this planet, way back, okay, I ended up melding from a spiritual standpoint with the planet itself. Now, this lifetime, I came in with one reason. Okay, my last lifetime, I was absolutely volatile. I would kill somebody for looking the wrong direction at me. And this lifetime, I came in going, nope, let's make another run at striving to help people get along. Okay, now when I was a child, I pulled away from people because I couldn't cope with them. And I was hoping that they would grow up and start to get along. Okay, sad to say they didn't. So I came here. I didn't know how to go about it. Okay, I had no clue how to get this message out to people. Okay, until now. Okay, well, in all fairness, March 6th of 2021. Okay, I had no idea how to do it. At this point, I know exactly how to do it. And I am asking for your guys' help to do so. And that is to spread this simple message that working together, we can make this a better world for everybody. For virtually everybody. There's some that will not agree. Okay, there are some that will fight. There's no question there. Well, yeah, you'd be amazed how many people. The sad part is where it came to the witch hunts, most of the people that were burned were wise elderly individuals. They were midwives, they were veterinarians, or they were healers. Okay, or they were herbalists. They were simply trying to help people stay alive and cope with the stresses of life. But the people in power, the people that had developed this greed thing, took that as a way of going, oh, you're weird, you're different. More importantly, I cannot control you and force you to do what I'm telling you. Okay, one of the reasons, as far as I'm concerned, that I don't run into as many problems as I could is because I am a firm believer that the political system in existence right now, the political system, the educational system, the spiritual systems, the systems themselves are absolutely reasonably well constructed. They've got flaws, but the people that are running them are a little misguided in many cases. But that doesn't mean throw the system out. It means work to get into the system in a position where you can help people. Okay, if you think back, take a look at one individual. All in essence that Christ, if you believe that Christ was even a man, all in essence that he did was come into the world and say, for pity's sakes, people, get along. Treat each other as you desire to be treated. That's ultimately all he said. And he lived his life doing that. Okay. Did that work out the way he intended? No. But there were a couple of reasons for that. But people today are taught, point the finger to everybody else and blame everybody for your own choices. Okay. The reality is, there's no saying that goes, if you point at somebody, take a look at that. Yeah, you've got one finger pointing there. But look where the other three are pointing. Okay. Anytime you make any decision, regardless of what the influence is or where it came from, any decision you choose to act on is your doing. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that, Philip. I hid from the world for years. It's only been, in all fairness, like I was thrown into the UFO spotlight 12 years ago. And not really the spotlight, just on the fringe at that time. Okay. It was literally the head of a MUFON in Texas that really threw me into the spotlight. Okay. Frank and Lynn M ended up with Hazy Radio, ended up accelerating that, as did KGRA. Okay. Where I got tossed into the spotlight. Now, I'm deliberately striving to do that. But there are topics I will not deal with head on. But for those of you, if I manage to get to Vegas, I know some of you have questions that I haven't dealt with. And I am quite open to talking about it in person. There's just some I won't talk about here. I've got really good friends living down in Texas. I haven't seen them now in 8 years. But, I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen them in person in 8 years. Okay, but like I said, I don't travel a whole lot. Primarily because I get lost way too easily. So what I'm looking at this point is it really boils down to, if you desire to see change in this world, it is absolutely critical that we do take a look and make the changes necessary. What is this? I was just reading this. Philip's just saying, when I finally make it back to school, I'd love to do some of that in Texas. Texas is a wonderful place. And I will tell you, I find very little difference between the people in any part of the world, between any color or any nationality or any spiritual path people. I literally see all people the same way. Some are nice, some are nasty. I was asked years ago, if there was one person still alive you would love to talk to, who would it be? And all kinds of people were picking out, I'd like to talk to this president. I'd like to talk to, this marketing mogul. My instant reaction was, I would love to talk to Charles Manson. Now, the man was a little off kilter. That's probably the understatement of the decade. But he had a phenomenal mind. I did not approve of his methods, but he still had a phenomenal mind. And the problem is not the knowledge you've got. The problem ensues when you're when you're utilizing the knowledge in a negative fashion. Okay. And this is why I'm looking at it right now. And again, I will say, because I am striving to get this message out, I am striving more and more to build the YouTube subscribers. I know the number of subscribers I've got is nothing compared to what the potential is for people just listening in and not subscribing. Okay, I understand this all too well. So from my standpoint, if you haven't already, I will certainly ask you to hit that subscribe button. I just want to find something here, because there are a couple of people here, and I know at the top of the chat line I posted a bunch of links to different chat groups, to different YouTube channels that people are bringing to light. Okay, and these are the people that I personally, they've either helped me or they're doing a really bang up job, and they've been in this room, been in this chat room, multiple times in most cases. Okay, so these are, and again, this is Spaced Out Radio. Dave, I cannot say enough, about how much Dave with Spaced Out Radio has been a real aid. Okay, then we have, now that's Dave on Spaced Out Radio. I really strongly suggest, if you haven't checked him out, if you haven't checked his site out, definitely do so. Then we have this one. Okay, and who do we got here? That's actually an excellent question. This is Nathan on the Quantum Show. Brilliant ideas. He's got some really incredible ideas that he works with. Okay, really interesting. Sometimes it might, for some people, it might be a little higher on the fringe side of the intellectual side of things, but it's a fantastic little place, little site. Then we have Shadow and Sun. Okay, now Shadow and Sun have a site that is more attuned to the creative side of things, about figures and D&D and that sort of thing. And again, it boils down to, if you're interested in the crafts, a real entertaining little show to sit in on occasion. I'm just looking at it. Carl says, Texas has many different cultures and lifestyles. Houston, Dallas, and Austin are very different from each other. This is very much the case. And it's like any system. You go to New York City, the 5 boroughs have different people. Go to Vancouver, they are different people. You go where I am in Kelowna. We have downtown Kelowna, which has one type of people. You've got the Mission, which has a much wealthier group of people. And then you have Rutland, which has the lower income, if you will. Okay, the fourth one that I've got, and again, I had all of these listed at the beginning, but I figure it's only fair, it's only reasonable to turn around and pop them back into here. Okay, And this, who is this? This is Chad Smith. Fantastic guy, a lot of really good ideas, a lot of really neat topics. Okay. Oh, I know who I'm missing here, and I'm going to have to look it up again. Because the one thing that I have lost here is, unless he's down below. Nope. Is World. Okay, and the next time I see World, I'm going to have to find him again. Okay, I'm going to have to get his website back. Because frankly, I don't know it and I can't remember. I think it's World Bigfoot. I think that's what it is, but I'm not 100% certain. Yeah, and that's, you always find a teacher there, Philip. I'm just looking at this. Philip was saying the Knowledge Bowl coach was absolutely wonderful, even though the school overall was and is still very unwelcoming to neurodivergent students. The school system, the way it's built, is designed to handle people that run right down the middle. Okay. In all fairness, Star, I don't know if it's Duke. I'm not really great with the different names, but I'm pretty certain it's the world. Pretty certain it's the World Bigfoot or something to that effect. This is why I write names down and usually have them saved. But I had a crash the other day, right as Dave's show came on. But these are just, again, this is a question of the more we connect with each other, the stronger this gets. And this is something I really encourage the world to do. Because let's face it, I'm not functionally different than any of you. I've got my hangups, I've got my strengths and weaknesses, I've got my likes and dislikes. Okay, I just have this broken little thing where I don't tend to keep my mouth shut. Something I found has worked phenomenal. There we go. There we go. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, YJ. So that's World. Okay, let's just see if I can find that and get that link in here for us. What we do is this. I've just gone on to another tab here. There we are. World Bigfoot Radio. Click on that. And then we can take this. And YJ, absolutely a godsend. Thank you for doing that for me. For finding out who it actually is. So with that in mind, two things. One, I'm going to paste it right here. There is, and I was talking to him the other day, and he's got some phenomenal insights there. And now I take it up here, and I copy that into my link page. And now I have saved it once again. YJ, that was absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much. Okay. And like with World, okay, I've run into actual physical Bigfoot. Okay. Beautiful people. Absolutely brilliant people. Okay. Not much on the talking side in English, but what the heck. And Matt Geek, haven't seen you for a while. Welcome back. And maybe you've been here and I just haven't seen you. But Happy New Year to you. Glad you could join us. It absolutely is, And the thing is, this is why I say technology is a good thing. Okay, but so is talking to people face to face. Now, technology and I are going to argue with each other in all likelihood forever and a day. But doing my best. That was my wrist dislocating. So I think maybe I should put it back. What do you think? Not necessarily the brightest idea I had. But we are hitting the 2-hour mark here. And with that in mind, I'm going to say thank you once again so much for joining me. I really appreciate the support and the encouragement I get here. I actually do look forward to coming on here on a regular basis. Now, tomorrow I should be on at 4:30. My game usually ends at like 3. So I should be here tomorrow. Okay, Thursday is the one night I won't make it. Just because that's the way timing goes. So, that being said, I absolutely look forward to seeing y'all again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.